Hello everybody. It's my favourite time of the month again. We're going to be talking about all the books I read in June, and then we get to pick my July TBR, and I'm very excited for a fresh month of reads. I can't wait to talk about all of these books I read. I'm very excited. I've had a very interesting month book-wise, I feel like. So we'll get straight into it, I guess. Okay, first things first. I had a very good reading month this month. Very surprising to me because it started off extremely rocky. I actually did end up reading 7 books this month. So once again, I aim for 6 books a month. And so far this year, I have accumulated 6 books every month. There was one month where I read 7, and this month I read 7 again, which I'm very excited about because at the beginning of the month I was having a worse book slump. It was taking like a very long time for me personally to read certain books. But yeah, 7 books this month. It was a very hit and miss month. So get into why. The first book I read for June was Bad Blood by Jennifer Lynn Barnes, which is the 4th and final book in the Natural series. Now, I've soon come to realise that it's actually not the final book. There is a novella. I rated this a 4.75. Now, I think I did talk about this in a previous video. Yeah, I talked about it in potential 5-star reads for me, which I did predict this would be a 5-star, purely because I think 2 out of the other 3 I rated a 5. I rated the one off, the third one at 4.5. Very high ratings. And I knew it was the wrap-up of the story, so I was like, yep, it's going to be a 5-star, 4.75. Now, this is first book I've ever rated a 4.75, like a quarter rating. I never used to do that, but I've discovered that sometimes books just aren't a 4.5 or a 5. It needs the in-between, so I've gone with the in-between. Some people hate it, and I was a hater. I really was. I was a big, strong hater of that. I was like, why would you rate it a 3.75, a 3.25 if you can just rate it the solid half? But I've eaten my words. I'm no longer a hater. This one, obviously in all the other books, it's following the group of the Naturals with all their special abilities, but the main character in each of the stories is definitely Cassie Hobbs, and she comes into the Naturals program in the first book after her mother's been murdered or her mum's gone missing. A body was never found. She always believed that her mum wasn't actually dead, but she didn't know where she went. So that was how the series started. She formed bonds with all the other Naturals. She formed a relationship with one of the guys. Literally, they're like this little family. That is really what they are. Now, in this one, it's a lot more centered around Cassie, I would say, in the regards to, in the book before, she discovered what had happened to her mum. Her mum wasn't dead. Is that a spoiler? Spoiler! It wouldn't be a video if I didn't use spoilers, would it? So in the book before, she found out her mother wasn't dead, which she had suspected, but she also found out she had a younger sister. Now, her mum is a part of this criminal group murdering individuals, and she's like, why would my mum be a part of this? That is not the type of person I knew. And she saves her sister from this environment because she doesn't want to grow up in it. And she's like, I'll protect her, everything like that. The whole book, it's her trying to figure out who the leader of this crime group is, her and her team. Finds out a lot more about her mum, and ultimately, in the end, it comes to having to choose between her life or her mother's life. That's kind of how it wraps up. It's quite a sad ending, honestly, which I wasn't expecting. I don't really read too many books with a really sad ending, but yeah, that one I would say was quite sad, and it honestly bumped up my rating quite a lot. I was on either a 4 or 4.5, a 4.25 or a 4.5. I was like, oh, I don't know. The ending 100% bumped it up for me, and I really enjoyed how it wrapped up. It was really sad, don't get me wrong, but you finally learned all the information about specifically Cassie and where she grew up, her childhood, because she was always moving as a child and she didn't remember why. But when she goes back to look for her mum, she goes back to her hometown. She finds out why her mum left, and she just finds out a lot about her childhood that was a mystery. So yes, rated at 4.75. I would recommend this natural series to literally everyone. I think I'm going to do a video on my favourite series down the in a few months' time or so. But I would recommend this series to literally everyone. It's so easy to read. If you love crime, like true crime, Criminal Minds, like Bones, like all those kind of crime shows, like every single one of them, I love pretty much. So I knew going into this, I had read reviews and it said it's literally like if you like Criminal Minds, you're gonna like this. So I was like, okay, I'm sad, I'm going to read it. So glad I did. It's a 5-star series for me. Like, meaning that in like, it's just so amazing, it's so easy to read, and it's not too like confronting like you'd think it would be, because it's like, I said it's like Criminal Minds and stuff, but it's like a YA version. I'm very pleased that I've now finished it. If I pick up the novella, you'll hear about it, but at the moment I'm not. 4.75, and the first book I read in June. The next book I read was Big Little Lies, which I ended up rating a 3-star. So not the best, but that's definitely not my worst. I usually rate a 3 if I'm like, I enjoyed it, but there was quite a bit missing, but it wasn't bad. Do you know what I'm saying? I rated this a 3 partially because I feel like I was in a terrible reading slump. It took me forever to read Bad Blood when it usually would have taken me like a few days. And then I went into this in a pretty big reading slump. I really didn't want to read this, but I was looking at my TBR for June and I was like, I have to read at least like 1 or 2 books off that, because otherwise, like, what's the point of having it? Do you know what I mean? But I chose this because I've watched the show, remembered it partly, but not enough that I would go into it knowing everything. Honestly though, I feel like I would have enjoyed this a lot more if I hadn't watched the show, which obviously can't help that, like, if you've seen the show and you haven't read the book. But I wasn't as invested in the book as I was in the show. But I think that's just because in the show I knew nothing, but in this I knew majority. It's a group of mums, and they all have children starting at the same school, same age, and they are just a group of mums that tell lots of little lies to cover their own backs, to cover their, like, each other, and ultimately it ends in someone being killed. The 3 mums, Madeline, Celeste, and Jane. So Madeline, she remembers every single thing that someone does, but she'll never forgive them. She might act like she forgives them, but she really doesn't. Celeste is the person that acts like they're perfect, but really behind closed doors, nothing is perfect. It's all an illusion. And then Jane is a single mother who has lots of trauma and sadness from like years of her life, and no one really knows about it. I will say someone is being abused, and then that kind of leads to the murder. So do with that what you will. So a group of mothers basically just telling lots of lies that really do turn deadly. If you aren't sure about reading the book, I would watch the show, which I don't usually say that. I a lot of the time will think that the book is a lot better than the show or the movie. But I'm probably just saying that because I watched the show before reading it. It wasn't the worst. It did keep me interested, I will say that. But yeah, I think I read it at definitely the wrong time. I kind of just wanted it off my TBR. I didn't want it on my card anymore, nothing like that. A 3-star, so not the worst, not the best. The next book I read was the 3rd book in the Hunger Games trilogy, which is The Hunger Games Mockingjay, which I rated a 4. The 2 other books before this, I rated them both a 5. And I was obsessed with them. I adored them, couldn't put them down. I read them really quickly. Again, I read this and I was still in a reading slump. If you haven't seen the movies, the first one is them getting reaped, being chosen in the reaping, and then Katniss and Peter getting chosen and going into the Hunger Games. And that's how you like meet them and everything. You know, they survive, they like kind of rebel against the Capitol. And then the second book is them getting chosen again for the Quarter Quell, which is, it happens I think every 25 years. And it can be anyone, that any past victors will get chosen, which they got chosen again. And at the end of that one, they did rebel again against the Capitol, and they escaped, and a lot of people escaped, and the Hunger Games kind of stopped at that point. So then this one is them, specifically Katniss, in hiding, and she's been taken to District 13, which District 13 is like non-existent. Like, it's been told it's been like eliminated, no one lives there. Like, it was bombed years and years ago, I believe, and deserted. So supposedly no one lives there. But one of the Capitol members, who is a game maker, Plutarch, actually helps Katniss, Finnick, a few other characters escape. And yeah, they get taken to District 13. This is where Katniss becomes the Mockingjay, like the rebellious symbol of like this group of people. They're just rebelling against the Capitol. They don't agree with the Hunger Games. They don't want them to happen anymore. They're sick of seeing all their loved ones die, and yeah, it's just them rebelling, and she's the symbol of rebellion. So the Capitol hates her. They want her dead, and a lot of death happens in this book. So that was specifically, this book specifically was so much more heartbreaking than the other two. I'll say this, in the end, it's really only Peter, Katniss, Haymitch, and Effie left, like, out of the main people, which is really sad. A lot of issues with her and Gale. Peter, I'm sorry, I don't really like him. I don't mind him, but like, he's just like, sometimes I'm just like, he's been through a lot, don't get me wrong. He's gone through so much trauma, but like, Katniss is just another level of like, I love her. He grows on me towards the end, I will say. Haymitch, love Haymitch. Oh my god, I'll get into that more in this video. You'll see why, but oh my god, I love Haymitch. And I love Effie so much. If I could say any character I love, it's Effie. Love her. This one, it kind of wraps up with them defeating the Capitol and them really coming into power, and in the end they have to decide if they want the Hunger Games to continue, but with the Capitol's children. And obviously, like, either way, it's not very good. Like, if you want it, you're an evil person, but if you don't, you're like, oh, well, all of our kids were killed for nothing, so why did theirs get to live, kind of thing. I feel like it was wrapped up quite well. But yeah, I just found myself not as interested in this storyline. Maybe it's because it's just them a lot of the time planning how to attack the Capitol, not really doing so much. And I will say, even the movies I didn't enjoy as much as the first two. So, rated this a 4. Again, another 5-star series, without a doubt. If you haven't watched the movies, do yourself a favour and watch them. Really, they're amazing, especially the first two. I'm so glad I finally read the Hunger Games books. I've had them on my TBR cart for so long, actually incredibly long. Don't even want to know how. Maybe next I'll read the Divergent series. That could be interesting, couldn't it? A 4-star from me. The next book is the star of the show. The next book I read is Wings of Starlight. This randomly came up on my For You page on TikTok a few months ago. I think when it first came out, and it was a $12 hardback. It came on, and I was like, hardbacks are never that cheap. And I was like, ooh, what's this about? Because I love a hardcover, and if it's that cheap, I want to buy it. So I looked it up, what it was about. It's like a prequel to Tinkerbell. Yeah, so it's like a prequel to Tinkerbell, and it like centers around these other characters. And I soon find out, when I was reading this, that in Tinkerbell they actually do talk about the characters from this book, which I didn't realize they'd be like connected like that. So that was, yeah, I found this sound, maybe I can put it in. So I just decided to read Wings of Starlight, and I'm so glad I did. This was a 5-star for me, and I absolutely adored it. This is probably the book that got me, I think, out of my reading slump, kind of. Like, I still read it like kind of slower, but as soon as I read this, I'm like, no, this is amazing. I love this book. And don't get me wrong, the whole time I wasn't like, oh, I'm going to rate this a 5. I actually was like, oh, it's probably a 4, 4.5. But no, towards the end, I was like, oh, this is pulling at my heartstrings. I love this book so much. This book follows a warm season fairy called Clarion, who is about to become the queen of her season, but she's also the queen of like all the seasons. All the warm season fairies get along and they all communicate well and everything like that, but they don't include the winter season fairies in really anything. They're not allowed to cross over to the winter season's border, because if they do, their wings will literally break, and winter's not allowed into warm seasons. Their wings will melt. So the winter and warm season fairies, they're not allowed to cross each other's borders, basically. But when these monsters called nightmares cross over to the warm season, Clarion decides she needs to see where these monsters are coming from. So she goes over to the border where the warm season and the winter season meets. This is where she sees Millery, which is the winter season's guardian. He's the guardian of the winter woods. This is where she sees Millery. Now, she's like, oh, I'm not sure about him, but they instantly do form this kind of connection where they're like, okay, she's like, okay, I think I can trust him. Now, every night they decide to meet, because she's not actually allowed out at night because these nightmares are coming to attack. She just wants to know why they're attacking this warm season fairies. She finds out that these nightmares are from the winter woods, and they have been living there, but they've been living there like hidden, like they haven't been attacking. So they're like, why are they attacking now, kind of thing. They end up attacking the summer season, like the warm season, and when they attack, they put basically the fairies into like a coma where they can't wake up, but they're constantly having nightmares. Sounds terrifying to me. I hate my nightmares, don't want them constantly. So they're constantly having nightmares. They can't figure out how to wake them up. They don't have a cure. So it's Clarion and Millery trying to figure out what to do. Clarion decides that the only way she can defeat these nightmares is if she goes into the winter woods, which obviously will break her wings, so she has to cover them. She covers them. Every night from then on out, she enters the winter woods and she forms a connection with Millery romantically, and she soon discovers how much love she has for the fairies that live in the winter woods. She doesn't want the worlds separate, whereas the current fairy of the summer season wants to break the tie between the seasons, and she doesn't want winter to have anything to do with them. And the whole book is just Clarion figuring out how to stop these nightmares, and in the process falling in love with this man that she knows she can't be with. Now, in the end, the ending was actually so sad, because you'd think in like a fairy book it'd have like a lovely ending, like really nice and like a happy ending. No. Okay. Just couldn't have that, could we? No. In the end, yeah, Clarion becomes a queen, and from there she decides no one is allowed into the winter woods. No one is allowed to cross the border because it causes wings to break, or and fairies kind of need the wings. It's a very sad ending because Clarion and Millery don't get the happy ending they're wanting. Very easy book, definitely YA. Wasn't scary, wasn't the typical fantasy book I read, but it was a good palate cleanser, which I needed, because gosh, the first few books were slow to read this month. This is the type of book I would read to my children one day, I feel like. But yeah, I rated this a 5-star. So happy with it, and yeah, like if it had if there was a story after this, I'd definitely read it, but 5-star for sure. The next book I read was Yours Truly by Abby Jimenez. I rated this a 5. Surprise, surprise. I've only read one other Abby Jimenez book, and it was just for the summer, and that was one of the, that's my favorite romance book I've ever read. and I rated that a 5. I loved that so much. I had never read any romance really before that where I loved it so much and couldn't stop thinking about it. And then, yeah, as soon as I read that, I kind of put this on my want to read list and just never got around to it. But when me and Lacey swapped books, she actually gave me this, which she also rated a 5-star, and I was very excited to read because, like I said, it's been on my want to read list for a very long time, and it did not disappoint. Not at all. This book follows Brianna, who is a doctor, and also Jacob, who is a doctor as well. And Jacob is a new doctor at the hospital that Brianna works at, and as soon as she meets him, she's like, nope, I hate him, he's trying to steal the job I want. And she's going through a lot, like she's getting a divorce, she wants this job, but Jacob comes in and she knows he's going to steal it, and she immediately off the bat hates him. Her brother is going through kidney failure, so he needs a kidney donor. So she's just got a lot in her life that she's stressed about. And then Jacob comes into the picture and she's like, no, you're literally going to ruin my life even more. So she immediately off the bat hates him. Now, Jacob is a very anxious individual. He doesn't ever want to be, like, do anyone wrong. He's very sweet. He's actually also going through a breakup. Not a divorce, obviously, but he's going through a breakup, and his ex-girlfriend is actually now marrying his brother. So they're both gone through a lot, I'd say. And yeah, Jacob just has moved to this new city. He has got a new job. And as soon as he sees Brianna, he's like, she is beautiful. Wow. But she already hates him, obviously. But as the story goes on, they form a connection. She's like, wow, he's actually not a bad guy. Like, he's really lovely. And in the end, she fake dates him so he can introduce her to his family and bring her to her brother's wedding, because he feels like so shitty about himself because his ex-girlfriend left him for the brother, and he doesn't want everyone to look down on him and be like, oh, that's like poor you kind of thing. So he forms a fake relationship with Brianna, and as the story goes on, the relationship obviously becomes real. And the story just gets better and better because Jacob is actually the perfect kidney donor for her brother. So he donates his kidney, and that's why she agrees to fake date him. She just understands him so well, and his social cues, and like how uncomfortable he is in social situations. And yeah, I've never read a book where it depicts anxiety so well, and I found myself relating to a lot of situations that Jacob was in and how he felt anxiety wise. I've read lots of books about different mental health issues, but I've never read one about anxiety, so it was a good book to read, especially when you relate so easily to the character. And I think that's also why I enjoyed it so much, because yeah, everything he was saying, I was like, oh my god, that is literally exactly how I feel in a social situation. And just how she was so willingly helping him, and just wanted to help him and make him feel better. And yeah, it just was a very good depiction of how when someone can actually help you in a situation like that, how much easier life can become. I just really enjoyed it, and it had a happy ending, thankfully. And I wouldn't say it was a predictable romance, really, because there was times where I was like, oh, they're so easily going to end up together, and then times I was like, oh, something like it's not as easygoing as I thought it would be. And yeah, I just really enjoyed it. Another really good palette cleanser, I feel like, which I needed because the next book kind of ruined me a little bit. But 5-star for sure, and I can't wait to read more Abby Jimenez books. Now, I have some thoughts on this one. Okay, I rated this a 2.5. Now, obviously that's a low rating. Definitely not the lowest I've gone this year, I don't think. It's not the lowest I've gone this year. I've rated a book a 1.5, so it's a step above that. It is a general fiction book, and from my track record, I'm not a big fan of general fiction. Like, I don't rate them particularly highly. I wasn't going into it thinking I would hate it, but I was just like, I feel like I'm not going to be that interested in a lot of it. But this is centered around Elizabeth, who's a chemist, and it is set in the early 1960s. and she works on an all-male team. They don't want women working with them, you know, it's that kind of time where women in those jobs is a no-no and they should just be at home in the kitchen kind of thing. And it just follows her throughout her life, and it starts when she's a chemist and she meets a young man who she ends up forming a relationship with. She doesn't want to get married to him because she doesn't want her life to be around a man. Like, she doesn't want it to be centered around a man. She just wants to be a chemist. She just wants to be a strong, independent woman. But she has fallen in love with this man. But when he dies suddenly, he leaves her with a parting gift, a baby in her tummy, which is obviously another no-no because she didn't want to marry him. Now she is a married widow, but she's not a widow because she never got married to him. So that's a very big no-no to a lot of people. And he was a famous chemist and he was a male, so everyone obviously knows of him. Everyone thinks she was just scamming him basically, just to, like, no one really believes her that it was an accident to have the babies. As the book goes on, she ends up getting fired from her job for being a woman. She gets sabotaged by a lot of people that just want to see her fail, really. And in the end, she actually gets a role on a cooking show, and she's the host. Like, she's the one on this show, like, it's just her. And in this cooking show, she's like using chemical examples, like she's using chemist words. Like, it's not just a normal cooking show, like she's saying like H2O for water and like things like that. And she gets an audience of mothers at home, and they love to watch her, they love to cook along with her at home, and she creates this like community of mothers. And it's just basically saying you're not just your children and you're not just your home. Like, you can be a strong, independent woman and you can enjoy things on your own. You don't need a man to do any of it. And she's just going against the grain. And yeah, she raises her child, and her child's kind of the same, where she's like, if you're in the wrong, she'll say you're wrong. Like, she's not gonna just stand back. And her kid's like 4, I think, and she's so smart. Building a community of strong mothers that don't need a man, and they can achieve their goals if they really want to. I will say I enjoyed the parts where it was like really advocating for women, going, yeah, you don't need a man, like, you can do this if you really want to. You don't need to be a housewife that's overlooked. I enjoyed that, empowering the women, all that. And I liked when she went against the grain and she did prove herself a lot, and I enjoyed that. I found myself extremely bored whenever it was the cooking episodes, only because it was so many of the chapters was just her in the kitchen saying all these chemical terms, and I don't know, like, I'm no chemist, I hate science, like, I don't know any of that, so I was a bit bored with those bits. But that's why I rated it 2.5, because I probably would have rated it lower if I didn't enjoy certain bits as much as I did. I really liked how it wrapped up. I'm almost certain she got a job back at where she was originally fired from. And they just realized her worth, and which is sad but true. Like, they realized, wow, she's not just a woman, she actually is good at what she does, which was obviously sad. But yeah, I feel like this book is probably directed to a certain crowd of people. Like, not everyone is going to enjoy this, and that's completely fine. But yeah, 2.5. I think I'm going to steer clear from general fiction for a while, because I don't think it's for me. Now, the 7th and final book I read this month was Sunrise on the Reaping by Suzanne Collins. It is set before the first Hunger Games, and this book follows Haymitch. If you have watched the movies or you've read the books, Haymitch is the mentor for Katniss and Peter. Is there the 75th Hunger Games? I don't know, 70-something Hunger Games. He's their mentor, and he's the only remaining District 12 victor, so he's a mentor for them. And this book follows him when he was chosen in the Reaping, and when he was put into the Hunger Games to fight for his death. His was a quarter quell as well, I believe. So that means he had twice as many people to kill. Because in the original Hunger Games, only a boy and a girl get chosen. But in his one, 2 boys and 2 girls were chosen. And yeah, so that means he had to kill twice as many people. He was only 16, and yeah. Oh my gosh. This was a 5-star for me, and I feel like this is a book I will be thinking about for a very, very long time. I love Haymitch, and I loved him in the Hunger Games books, and you just know, like, oh, he must have been through some messed up shit for him, because he's an alcoholic in the Hunger Games books, and I'm like, you must have been through so much shit, because you can just tell how messed up you are. And oh my gosh, this book ruined me, because it just made me love him so much more, and I just feel so bad for him. And there's so many, I loved reading this because there's so many connections between this and the Hunger Games that you don't realize, like how he calls Katniss sweetheart. Oh, because in this book he calls this little girl sweetheart, and it's just so sad. And he loses so many people, and it's just heartbreaking, it really is. And obviously this book was released after the Hunger Games, so unless you've haven't read the Hunger Games, you'd probably read this after. But honestly, I would still read this after reading the Hunger Games, because you learn so much more and you can see so many more like interconnections, which I liked. And so many of the characters that are in the Hunger Games books are in this book, but younger obviously. So they've gone through a lot with Haymitch, specifically Plutarch and Effie. I just love it so much. If you haven't read this book and you read the Hunger Games, you need to read it, especially because the movie's going to be coming out soon, like next year. And yeah, I don't really know what to say, except the way Haymitch is chosen for the Hunger Games is very unfair. When he's in there, it's very clear he's targeted from the beginning, and I feel like, other than probably Finnick, I feel like I'd say he goes through a lot, like more than a lot of people, Haymitch. Not in the way like Finnick does as much, but he loses a lot of people, and you can just tell how ruined it is, like how much it crushes him. You can specifically tell in the Hunger Games movies and books. I really do want to read Ballads of Songbirds and Snakes, but I couldn't find it. But I feel like I could read that now anyway, because but that's before this anyway, so it doesn't matter. They're not like really that connected. 5 out of 5 stars for me. Honestly, could be a 6-star for me, and I can't wait to see the movie, and read Ballads of the Songbirds and Snakes. For now, the Hunger Games books are finished for me, and that's really, really sad. Okay, guys. These are the 7 books I read in June. And like I said, I had a very mixed reading month. I had some new favourites, that's for sure. Actually, I had a pretty good month, I'd say. A very good month. I don't know why I said mixed month. Like, I just had books that I wasn't as keen on reading. I didn't get to 3 of the books on my TBR, but to be completely honest, I think that's okay, because June's TBR was shocking for me. I was not excited to read like anything, and honestly, I wouldn't have had a good reading month if I didn't go and buy some more books, so what can you do? Now it is time to choose my July TBR, so I'll pick 6 books again. Guess we'll see what I get this time, shan't we? It's time. I'm nervous. This month, I would love to get to the final Harry Potter book. It's time. It's taking me far too long. I don't know why it's taking me so long, guys. I really don't. And I will get to it this month. I'm determined to. And if I don't, someone hit me, honestly. I'm still in the middle of my tandem read. It's not going very well, so love to get to the way I used to be, because it's meant to be really sad, and I would love a sad book. Shatter Me potentially would be a nice read. I'll do what I did last time, and I'll pick 3 from this book thing. That's just the book, and then 3 prompts, which actually I wrote more prompts, so it should be actually interesting this time, because last time I had the worst prompts in there left, so we'll see what I get. Let's do 3 of these first, and if it's not in here, I'll just bin it, I guess. First book. I said to Lacey yesterday, I think it's time I get to this book, and it's clearly time. I got Saving 6 by Chloe Walsh. Okay, so this is the first book on my TBR, which is the third book in the Boys of Tommen series. Can I even tell you like why I haven't started this? No, I can't. I rated the first one a 5-star, second one a 4.5. Great series so far, heard amazing things. It's Lacey's favourite in the world, I think, and she's constantly referencing it, so, and I know like what happens in a later book, so like I need to read this one. And what this one's centered around Joey Lynch and Aoife, which is Shannon's brother. I am excited. I did say to her, I'm like, I think it will happen this month. Will I actually get to it? Here's hoping. So this is the first book on my TBR for July. Lacey's gonna love that one. This is my lucky day. I knew I had to have a bad month last month to have a good one this month. Damn, the way I used to be. Oh my god, this is best ever. I'm so excited. I got this I think 2 months ago, and I initially got it because I literally asked lots of people and I looked it up, and I just wanted a sad book. I needed a sad book at that time in my life. It was after I read If He Had Been With Me, and I teared up from that, and I was like, I just want a book that ruins me, because at least it'll be the book ruining me and not something else. So it's a very traumatic book, but I'm intrigued to read it purely because I've heard that it's very soul crushing. But I am excited to read it. So this is the second book on my July TBR. The third book out of this one I will read is You Had Me at Hello. So this has been on my TBR cart since the beginning, since I had a TBR cart. I think it's like just a typical romance. I'm not very excited to read it. I'm excited to get it off my cart, hopefully, but not particularly excited to read it. But yeah, I don't know anything about it, but this is the third book on my July TBR. So I picked 3 from here. First one. Enemies to lovers. Okay, this is my issue because I don't know if they're enemies to lovers in any of them. So I'm gonna have to look it up, do some research. So I only looked up one book because I looked up the book I want to read. No. So I looked up if Shatter Me is enemies to lovers, and it says yes. It's not the typical like straight dislike to love, but it is apparently, the series is apparently enemies to lovers. I have no idea what this is about other than it's in a dystopian world. So we'll see what it's about. I don't really know. It's a relatively shorter book by the looks of it. So it might be a nice and simple read for me. I haven't really read, like I don't think it's a straight fantasy. From the looks of it, it reminds me more of Divergent series. I could be completely wrong. Guess we'll find out, won't we? So this is the 4th book on my July TBR, Shatter Me. Let's pick the 5th book. Under 400 pages. That's what we like to see. Honestly, a majority of my books look like they're over 400. This one looks short. Okay, 392. I think Sharp Objects is next in this. This one is 321. Now, I've read Gone Girl in this. Is it a series? I don't think it's really a series. It's not. But it's just by Gillian Flynn or Gillian Flynn, whatever. I did not really enjoy Gone Girl, but I've heard amazing things about Sharp Objects. From the looks of it, it's like mystery, thriller vibes, kind of giving me the Naturals but more serious. Don't really know, but I think we're going to go with Sharp Objects by Gillian Flynn, whatever you want to say. So this is the 5th book on my July TBR. Let's pick the 6th and final book. I'm scared. A book turned movie. We know what this is going to be, guys, don't we? And I really want to get to it this month, and I honestly don't really know if I have any other books turned movie, unless you're thinking Divergent. But we're going with this, let's be real. I'm not even a doubt in my mind I'm picking this. So this is the 7th book in the Harry Potter series. I've read literally the 6th book months ago, and I've loved the series, so I don't know why I stopped. I think it's just I didn't want to finish it, to be honest. This is probably the movie I remember the least, but I just know it wraps up very nicely. It's so sad, this movie. So, like, the ending of this movie is so heartbreaking, so I'm not ready for that because so many characters I love die. That's probably why I haven't read it, to be honest. But I demolished the other 6 books, so the fact that I just stopped reading it, odd. Don't know why I did that. But this is the 6th and final book on my July TBR, and I'm so excited. I'm going to get to it this month. I refuse not to, okay? I'm getting to it. These are the 6 books I've chosen for July, and this is the best TBR I've ever picked. Like, literally ever. I'm sorry, but I wanted this one, and this one. I literally said, wanted to get to them. I said about this to Lacey yesterday, and then I'm intrigued about this because I've heard great things. Not very excited about that, but we'll see if we even get to it. But this stack right here, this is beautiful. And I'm so excited. I really hope I get to, like, majority of these. I'm going to be bummed if I don't. I'm so excited and can't wait to give you my thoughts. Hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you enjoyed hearing my thoughts about all the books I read in June. Thanks for watching. See you next time.